Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast, an audio program discussing the almost 50-year history of Neuse Little Theater and the backstage antics and stories that come along with running a community theater in a small town. I'm your host, Matt Gore, and we are coming to you from NLT's stage and base of operations, the little log cabin located on the banks of the Neuse River in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to it as the Hut. All right, we're here for another episode of a Neuse Little Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Before we get to our main guest this evening, we would be remiss if we didn't at least mention that this is a theater podcast after all, and one of the giants of musical theater recently passed away, as I'm sure most of you who have anything to do with theater know. Stephen Sondheim passed away. He's the writer of such musicals as Into the Woods. He studied under Leonard Bernstein, and he's written like Assassins, which is my favorite musical of his, and Sweeney Todd. And Mita, you know a little bit more about Sondheim than I do, and because you did a review back,
I did.
And you still have an itch to do Sweeney Todd one day.
I would love to do Sweeney Todd, yeah. Dad was in the review that we did. It was called Putting It Together, and Dad was in that one. So.
And also, there was another thing. I've been reading great reviews on this Steven Spielberg adaptation of West Side Story. Now, Tamara says the original West Side Story is very dear to her. It's one of her favorite movies, and so she's very hesitant to go see it in the theaters. And I'm trying to coax her along. And I saw a review that said that I could not believe. I saw a headline. I read a headline I could not believe, rather, and it said, "This is among Spielberg's very best movies." And I'm like, better than Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jaws, the remake of West Side Story? Oh, this is very curious. So that alone, I was like, well, I guess I have to check it out now.
Right.
Are they going to drag you to the movie theater to watch that?
If anybody's dragging anybody, it's me dragging somebody else, because I'm the only one that goes to movies, and I don't even do that very often. So.
Well, we look forward to it coming out, and that was just a little bit of a theatrical news. Anything, I'll start trying to do that at the beginning there. If anything interesting happens in the theater world, or any weird stories like that story about that theater in Australia that was doing a production of Sweeney Todd and got a little overzealous and ended up cutting somebody's throat.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That's an old story, but
okay.
Yeah, they were a little overzealous on opening night.
Blunt your weapons, people.
Yeah. They got a little bit too into it. All right, so without further ado, I want to introduce our guest for the evening here. And I've known this man since I've been here at Neuse Little Theater in 2007-ish. And he's always been a fixture here. He's our resident handyman, electrician, very knowledgeable person, Fred Toole. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
How were you first introduced to Neuse Little Theater?
Well, back in '97, Mita and my wife, Mita's mother, came here to the theater, tried to get me to go down that night, and I said, no, I don't have time. I'm going to stay home and do a little book work and read a little bit. And so they came in after they had seen To Kill a Mockingbird, and they were both so enthused with the quality of the show that they had just seen. And Mita said, guess what they're doing next? And I said, how could I guess? And she said, they're doing Damn Yankees. I said, that's nice. I've seen that show in the movies. And she said, I want to be in that show. And I said, honey, all you got to do is go down and audition. And she said, I don't want to go audition by myself. I want you to come with me. And I said, I ain't got time for that. And right then, Mama jumped in and she said, you have time for other stuff you want to do. And, you know, the story there, you don't have a chance. So I said, okay, we'll go down and I'll go down to audition with you. So we did, and we both got a part. And we've both been very zealous and happy about the situation in the Neuse Little Theater ever since. So we both got a part in Damn Yankees. It's still a very, very good play that I enjoyed very much. But that's how I got into it. I got kind of shanghaied into it.
My version's a little more long-winded than that, but whatever.
Well, go ahead. Well, what did he leave out, Mita?
What I remember, and it was 1998, not 1987, but what I remember was Mom and I came to see the show, and then I went home and said, Dad, let's go audition. And he said, I've never seen that. I don't know anything about the music. So I had to go and get a CD, like the cassette tape from the mall and bring it home. And he listened to it. He goes, that's pretty good music. I'm okay with that. But I just wish I could see it. So off I go to Suncoast Video.
Wow, that's a blast from the past.
And amazingly enough, they have a VHS of the 1958 film with Gwen Vernon. Is that who it was? I can't remember anyway. And Dad watched it. He said, I guess I'll go down there with you. And the rest is history. But yeah. The rest of it was pretty normal. I mean, it was pretty close, but I remember it being a lot more tooth pulling.
Yeah. A little more arm twisting than I let on. But I think I had seen the Damn Yankee movie at one time before. I might have been using that for an excuse, but
I'm sure.
But anyway, I was very surprised when I got the part that I got in that show.
Which was what?
Van Buren, the baseball manager, the Washington Senators manager, and he had the signature song in Damn Yankees, you know, you gotta have hope, and it had always been a good song in my mind. I probably didn't associate it with Damn Yankees when I first heard of it, but anyway, it was a very fun show to do. Love to see us do it again sometime.
Yeah.
We played with some wonderful actors and actresses in it. We had Don Johnston doing the old Joe, and Mike Winters doing the young Joe, and then we had Evelyn Martin doing the newspaper reporter. Bad girl for a while, and then it turned out okay. But then we had Sean Braswell was Smokey the catcher, and several other old mainstays.
Yeah.
Not Sammy Davis, but Sammy Smith was in it.
You got Don Johnson and Sammy Davis Jr. to be in this?
But yeah. And Vivian Whirl, I was blown away by Vivian Whirl. I was kind of ill with her, I guess, because she did You Gotta Have Hope a lot better than I did. Vivian was a singer, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So your natural competitiveness came out a little bit?
Oh, yeah. And I remember, and we were practicing. I think it was practicing the thing where we were all trying to walk across the hall and sing in harmony. And the music director stopped and looked at me and said, "What part are you singing?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, it sounds like."
Oh, no.
Yeah. And after we got through with that, I went back out into the seat out there. I sat there and I thought I was kind of deflated. And because he didn't pull no punches.
Sounds like
And
it.
I said, I ain't gonna let that, you know what, intimidate me.
Uh-huh.
So after it was over, or after practice was over that night, I came up and said, "Look, would you put my part on tape?" And he said, "Sure." And he seemed very glad that I had asked. And we turned out to be good buddies, good friends, and in that show and a couple more.
Right.
He was very good. He was an old-time showman.
But that's got to be hard, though. I mean, this is your first show that you've ever done, and
Yeah.
you're here and on one of the first rehearsals, and now you're told that your singing is basically not up to snuff yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be difficult.
Well, he seemed to be happy with my singing during auditions, you know, because I could hit the high parts that some of the other guys could not hit. And but I guess he figured I just needed a little jolt, and I got it, and he got it right back, because I just decided I was going to stand up for my own rights.
Was it Harrison? Was that who did
Yeah.
it? Okay, yeah. Harrison was not. We talked about him before.
Yeah, on Nancy's episode.
Yeah, he was known for being a little persnickety.
Was this the guy with the bird?
The bird,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure people give him the bird several times.
I'm sure.
But Harrison was a good guy. I liked the way he played piano, because when I got up for audition that night, all I said was, "Give me a G chord." He did, and I started singing a song that I had written, so I knew he had never heard it before, and he came right in on it and accompanied it very well.
Obviously, you've done several shows here, and the easy answer would be Mita. But let's say, besides Mita, what are some of the actors that you've really enjoyed spending the time on stage with?
Oh yeah, I'm not on that list.
Mita's good. We've only been in, 2 shows together, I think, or maybe 3.
Well, yeah, I was trying to look it up, and it's
You
like
win Damn Yankees, you win Pajama Game,
Cabaret.
Cabaret.
That was the one that gives me therapy. I still pay him therapy bills about.
Yeah.
Even when we're in shows together, we don't really interact much either.
No.
So
So you've never had a chance to really play off one another.
not really.
Well, we did a little bit at Cabaret because she was the call girl and I was the sailor,
Oh,
and
that's the therapy bills you were talking
Yeah, it's my
about.
therapy bill.
yeah. So she had a hard time getting over her dad, I think, being in a role like that. And
Yeah, but not the only time that's happened on this stage.
No.
I just every night during Cabaret, I would psych myself up. I'm like, it's fine. It's like, because the scene we were in together, we sat on the bench together and just sort of talked back and forth, and he just sort of was goofy. And I don't even know if we really talked, but
No,
we
not
got
much.
interrupted, and so I wasn't really doing a scene with him. We just happened to come out of the boudoir together. But at the beginning of the show, I would walk across the stage on the musical cue and walk over and sit at his table, and we would flirt at the Kit Kat Club. And every night he would reach over and he would touch my hand, and every night it was like, and every night before the show I'm like, okay, it's fine, it's acting, there's no big deal, it's not a big deal, you can do this, and I'd convince myself I could do this, and I'd strut across that stage, and I'd sit in that seat, and I'd lay my hand down on the table, and he would run his hand up my arm, and I'd go,
Why did you think the director chose to cast it that way? Was he or she just messing with you?
Tony,
Uh-huh.
and he doesn't think far out. I don't think. No, it was solely my hang up because there was nothing inappropriate in it. It just was like one of those things that it's like, you're fine. Nope, not fine. And it's just that one moment. The rest of it was okay. It's
Well,
just-
that's what acting is, There's nothing personal
right.
in the acting. I mean, you got to be somebody else. Mita was another person. I was another person. And, of course, if it had called for any more interaction than that, I would have backed out, I'm sure.
Did I?
Yeah.
But she's always been a nice girl. And
Okay. All right. So, what are some of the other actors that you've enjoyed spending time on stage with there, Fred?
Well, Sammy Smith, for one, has always been fun to interact with. John Colcom, I got to interact with quite a few in 12 Angry Men.
Which juror number were you?
I was juror number 9.
Okay. Trying to remember my juror number 9.
He's the old guy
He's
in
not,
the movie.
is
He's
he
old guy.
is he not the racist? Not the racist.
No, the sweet one.
The sweet guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
it's the old guy, and I played it up a little bit with a limp, and Nancy and
Amy.
Amy, yeah, Amy. How could I forget Amy? They kind of let me have free hand with it, and I hemmed it up a little bit. And there was one scene in that when Bill Woodall, I don't know if you ever met Bill or not.
I can't. I'm not sure.
His son Eric does a lot of stuff used to do a lot of stuff in Raleigh. You might recognize
Eric
that
Woodall.
name.
The name sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Bill had done a lot of acting, and this was the first time I'd ever actually met him to know who I was talking to. And he was juror number
Yeah. 8.
8.
That's the Fonda role, right?
Yeah, number 8's the main one. Yeah.
Yeah, he was number 8, and he was superb in it. Bill was. And of course, Bill is deceased now, but he was just so good. And I remember there was one scene when he would take the vote sheet, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he would wad it up and he'd throw it down angrily on the table. Well, I've kind of picked up on playing onto that one, you know, and I would pick that up off the table and I would look at it, I would look at him and say, well, if he can feel that way about this case, I can too, you know, without saying a word.
Right.
And then one night he threw it down and it bounced off the table. And he came to me later and said, we'd never talked about that being one of your props, but when I reached under the table with my foot and drug it up to me and picked it up, you know, and played it just like I had been, and I think it was even more effective probably. He said, I hadn't even realized that you were using that for a prop. And so from then on, he made sure he dropped it where I could find it, you know, pick it up.
The importance of little character moments that build on each other. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was an amazing show. That was Craig
Baker's first show.
Craig Baker's first show, and Craig had been here. What was his role to start with?
He was the bailiff, I think. Was he the bailiff? I think he might have been the. I don't remember. No, I can't remember.
Anyhow, this other actor whose name I can't remember now, quit. He just quit one night, came in and said he wasn't going to do it anymore. So they had to get somebody else, and they got Craig. And Craig knew his lines.
Mm-hmm.
He already knew the lines, and he came up and sat right in on practice. And he was a much better player because it required a bigger kind of guy. Craig was bigger and more blustery in actual life than the guy that took it at first. He was a little, not any bigger, or probably not quite as big as me. So Craig fit the role very much and did a wonderful job of it.
Yeah.
And Bill Woodall had a wonderful idea for, you know, when you give gifts at the end of a performance or a show. Bill took everybody's number. He was a mathematician, taught math out at Johnson Community. And he took everybody's number and went through what that number meant, where it came from, and when he got to number 9, I was just blown away with what he put down as a number 9. You know, I still got it hanging on my wall. What the little thing he gave me. Of course, it was framed, and he did everything right.
Well, those little gifts mean a lot. I have a shoebox full of them. But no, I look at them. There's some I come across that I've just forgotten about. But yeah, Mita's good at that. She's always good at giving great little gifts at the end of the runs. She gave us these little compasses at the end of Explorers Club, and that was very nice. Okay, it sounds like there was a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of our mainstay guys in that 12 Angry Men production. But what's some of the ladies that you've enjoyed working with on stage?
Well, let's see, Vivian World I started with. Jean Marlowe would have to be, I guess, my all-time favorite
Yeah.
because we played man and wife in at least 4 shows that I can remember. And Jean was always such a lady, such a pleasant person to work with.
Mm-hmm.
She always knew her lines, her entrances, and that sort of thing. And she could help me out of a lot of pickles I could get myself into.
She was definitely sharp, that's for sure.
Yeah, one night they had me playing on. Had me playing Bud Turpin for the opening of Dearly Departed. Well, I'd seen other people do that opening. You know, all you had to do was sit there and come up with a way to die at breakfast. And so when it came my time, I said, well, I'm going to come up with something different. So I was sitting there chewing my tobacco, and Jean was talking, and of course I never had a line, you know, but Jean was talking incessantly, and as she was supposed to, her character was. She was my wife and the mother of my children. Excuse me. Anyhow, I just kind of relaxed and slid off the chair and slid down under the table, you know, and my head hit the floor, thump, and I could hear somebody in the audience say, ooh. And of course, me being hard-headed, it didn't hurt me. But later on, when Jean was talking to the preacher about when did I die, you know, she said he died at breakfast, and she said, and the preacher said something like, did you know he was dead? She said, I knew by the time he slid under the table he was dead. And that wasn't a normal line for her.
Right. She played along with it. She remembered it from earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, Jean Marlowe. She recently passed away, and if you want to go back and listen to her episode, we reposted it a couple of weeks back on the NLT Facebook page, and it's always going to be there on the little archive in the iTunes or the Spotify if you ever want to go back and listen to that.
Right. Some of the other women, of course, were Nancy Gibbs, and Stephanie Varon. And of course, I've enjoyed all the women that I've played with or had things to do.
If you could go back and do one of those roles again, what would you want to go do? If you could choose, if you had to choose one to go back and do just as good as you did it before.
Boy, it'd be hard to decide if I had to pick one, because Pajama Game was one of my favorites when I played Hines.
Give us a brief overview of Pajama Game for those that don't know, Mita.
There's a pajama factory, and they are trying to get a 7.5-cent raise, and they've got a new foreman that comes in, and the leader of the ladies, and he kind of hit it off and kind of fall in love and all that sort of stuff. They've got a new guy, a new foreman, new manager, whatever you want to call him, and he hits it off with, she tends to be the ringleader of the women on the floor, the seamstresses and stuff. And they end up, she has to kind of spend time with him trying to kind of convince him of the whole, the strike or the slowdown or whatever they're doing. And they sort of fall in love. And Dad played the part of the man who made sure things were kept moving on the floor. He was the time guy. He was the efficiency guy, trying to make sure everything ran on time and smoothly. So
I'm sorry, and what were you saying, Fred?
Oh, I was talking about the character Hines, who was the time study man. That's all he had on his mind was keeping the tops in production at the same rate as the bottoms of the pajamas. You know, that's all they made, and so it had several good songs in it, and that's what I enjoyed about it. And Ruth, who was the director, Ruth Mills, gave me a very good compliment at the end of the show. But I thought there were some nice little songs in that, not only for me, but for everybody. I mean, it was a good musical.
What was the compliment she gave you, if you care to share it with us?
She just said she thought I took Hines and made him my own, and she'd love to work with me again, which we've worked many times since then.
It's always nice to hear a director say that, and that's what you got to do with your character. And it seems like, in hearing you speak, it seems like that's something that you try to do. It seems that you've seen it done one way, or have it in your head, or seen it somewhere one way, and you're like, I've got to try to do something different.
Yeah.
Which I think is important.
Well, it's not necessarily how the other guy does it. You know, you want to keep in character with the character, but sometimes people read a character different ways. In other words, some people might see Hines as a drunk because he did hit the bottle pretty heavy, and he was a knife thrower, and he could get violent when he got drunk, and he was very jealous of the girl that he liked in the show, you know, who was Laurie Hamilton, played the part of his girlfriend. And then we had a girl named Jeannie Robinson who played Mabel, who was Hines's advocate. She wanted to see Hines straighten out and do right, you know. Well, he did his job good, but he could let personal things get in his way, you know. So I just tried to play up on some of that, and I'd seen people who get a little out of hand when they get to drinking too. And he threw knives, and they had a board up here at the picnic, the company picnic. They had a board where Babe, who was the girl that Mita was talking about, was the ringleader of the. In fact, I think she was one of the former, was the lady union boss.
something like that, yeah.
And so they were trying to get a 7.5% raise.
Right.
This tells you how far back it was cast, back in the early 50s. And so at the picnic, Hines was pretty high, and Babe stood next to the board, you know, and he was throwing knives at her, and not at her, but around her, you know, to outline her. And so her boyfriend, who was the new manager, came in and broke it up because he knew that Hines probably couldn't throw a knife as good drunk as he could sober. And so that lady was another one of my favorites in the show. That was Ginger Wilson.
Yeah, she's ready now. Ginger ready.
Ginger Reddy, that's right. She was Wilson at the time, I'm sorry. But Ginger was always one of my not only favorite actresses, she was one of my favorite people, you know. As long as I knew her, she and I always interacted very well together, and I'd love to see her again sometime.
Right.
It's been a long time since I saw her. She moved off to Florida, as we did Rick Flores. Rick's another fellow that's just a wonderful guy to be on stage with. You know, he's so adept at his characters and all. And in Cabaret, he played the gorilla.
What's that? Is it an actual gorilla? I don't know.
It's there's a song that's probably wouldn't fly in today's political world, but the MC sings a song called "Me Skate," which means I can't remember what it means. It's a derogatory term
Okay.
and he sings it, and at the end of the song, this big gorilla comes out and he talks about being in love with her, and people don't understand, and all of that sort of stuff. And at the end of the song, he goes, "She doesn't look Jewish, does she?" And
Doesn't look Jewish at all.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was part of the song, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a grand show. Cabaret is a grand show, and it had some good show. I really didn't intend to be in Cabaret. When I heard the music, I said, there's one song I want to sing in that show, but I don't want any of the speaking parts, so I didn't get a speaking part. But he let me sing that song, which is Tomorrow Belongs to Me, as several of us in that show sang that same song. It was a recurring song, and but my part, I think, was probably one of my favorite spots in all of the 20-some years I've been in the theater, because it was a song that I had worked on hard because I wanted Tony to let me do it, and so he agreed to do it, and then we had several guys that were singing harmony at the conclusion of that song, and it got good reviews.
It's a really pretty song. But then, basically, at the party in the Act 2, the Nazis sort of usurp it and make it a Heil kind of song. And that was like...
So they bastardize it.
Pretty much. It's a song about country and having... what is it? Not respect, but being proud of where you come from, being proud of your country. And at the party, my character, one of the guys who's an SS member or whatever, gets upset with everybody for partying, and she pulls him in and says, no, let's sing. And so she starts the song, and by the end of it, it becomes this very Nazi pro-Nazi song.
So they're perverting it into something. Yeah,
yes.
they're start, and this.
That's when they're coming. That's when they're coming to get everybody.
Right.
You know, the stormtroopers are coming in. They take a character or a couple of characters and take them out. And at that time, Tony's given me 3 more roles in the show, just stand-in roles, you know. But we got to stand there and as Nazi guards and watch them. Me and Rick Flores were the two, and we watch them come in and take those folks out and march them out. And you know, when you say the old saying that I didn't say anything because they weren't coming for me, but then finally they came for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was standing there and it was very convenient. I had a severe pain in my right knee. I mean, it was hurting terribly, and I had to stand at attention. And tears were rolling down my cheeks.
Really? Because it hurt so bad?
And what was going on stage too,
yeah.
you know. But it was a moving part, I thought, when at the end of Cabaret, when they came and took the people away.
It's a deep show when you think about it, because the whole thing is done in such a way that it's all parties and light and facade, and then at the very end, you basically realize that, you know, the dirty, gritty underneath of what was going on during that period of time. So.
And is it about the Nazis just coming into power?
Yes.
Okay, so pre-war Berlin was a very liberal's not the right word, but it was a very freewheeling, free-loving type of place. It was the opposite of the
exactly.
And so that dichotomy of this huge party atmosphere, and now
right, and that's what the Kit Kat Club was. Mm-hmm. It was just wide open, and there's a whole lot of innuendo and double entendre and just all-out raunch, basically.
Yeah.
And then you have the Nazis come in and go, no, we're better than this, and you know, people start to sort of fall in line with that, and so that's sort of how the show goes. It's all big, bold, and then it sort of becomes more and more the the noose sort of tightens by
Yeah.
the end of the show.
You don't even realize it by the end, I guess, is what.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And if you do it with a live orchestra, what they do is there's like a live orchestra on stage at the beginning, and they play. Usually they're members of the Kit Kat Club kind of a thing, because the whole thing basically takes place. Every time I've seen it, when we did it, when I saw it on Broadway, the whole thing takes place in the club, but they're represent someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the band orchestra plays on stage, and by the end of it, everybody gets taken off. Even the band's no longer there because they've been removed
Right.
from the society.
Yeah, because all the Jewish people were taken away,
And not just
locked away.
Yeah, not just the homosexuals, people that were mentally impaired.
Yeah.
That's
Anybody that wasn't Aryan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
If you didn't meet a certain criteria.
and you didn't fall in line. If you didn't fall in line, they took you off too. So, yeah, it was a our way or the highway kind of a thing. So,
All right. Well, that was interesting. We're running a little low on time, but I do want to get this in before we. You hosted the Cannons for several years. Just a quick sidebar: Cannons are our annual award ceremony for Neuse Little Theater, and you had recently decided to stop. But tell us just a little bit about hosting the Cannons and how that came to be and all that.
I always considered it a great honor to get up there and try to set a tone where, a lighthearted tone in most cases, but still put the actors who had got the awards as serious and tried to make sure people realized the effort they had put in to get these awards. And you don't want to go overboard with that, talking about how hard they worked and all, because it was, you do it for fun here at Neuse Little Theater.
Yep.
And so I did it for several years, and the first year I did it, I think I just considered it one of the best honors I'd ever had to be able to talk about the best in our little theater group. And so I tried to come up with appropriate jokes, and sometimes I got a little too lighthearted maybe, but
Your jokes are legendary.
well, I didn't tell any of my legendary ones at the Cannon Awards. But and then one night that I distinctly remember was when Doris Cannon was there for the last time. Doris was a wonderful person in this theater, and she was a good writer, and she was a very good friend. I never knew her as a personal friend, but I considered her one of my friends, and that's who the Cannon Awards are named after.
Yes.
And I remember it was very bittersweet that night, knowing that, we were honoring her, and that she was she was sick at the time, but we didn't know it was going to be her last appearance. But I just look back on moments like that, and they're part of life, Their life is made up of moments like that, and when you're in the rough days, it makes you appreciate the good days. Makes you realize sometimes when you're having a really bad time in your life, you say, boy, I just never appreciated the good times enough. And so I did the Cannons for several years, and then I thought I was getting a little bit burned out at it. I didn't feel burned out, but I didn't think I was doing justice for the actors and those who had won the awards as much anymore as I had in the past. So I just decided it was time for me to step out of the picture a little bit. I still love the show. I still love the evening.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite evenings of the year too. It's when it comes to when it comes to community theater award ceremonies, I've been to a couple of different ones, and I think ours is very unique. And because it's nice, it's a very nice event. When it comes to these things, it is what you make it.
Yep.
You know, it is whatever you guys decided. And when I first went to it, I was like, oh, this is actually very nice, and it feels welcoming. And it feels prestigious, and no small part because of you, Fred, and because you said at the very jump when you said it's an honor to do it. Well, you convey that. It is conveyed through your hosting, and believe it or not, it is. And I hope whoever does it next. It was supposed to be me last year, but then I had a leg injury at the very last minute.
You were so mad.
I was so mad because I had wanted to do it, yes, but not before Fred was done. When he decided to done, I was like, when he's done, maybe I can get a shot at it. And I finally got my shot, and I got a leg injury. I had a back injury at work, and it traveled down to my calf, and I could not walk for a week. I was so angry.
It'll come around.
Yeah,
It'll come around.
And luckily, Teresa was willing to step in and do it.
Teresa
And
was
you
wonderful.
You had done all the legwork because we had decided with Dad stepping down as MC, we would bring back people who won the award to present the awards.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't quite as much work as when Dad was doing it. Dad was doing the MCing and presenting awards. And we sort of kind of delegated all of that to other people, so it wasn't quite so one person heavy, I guess, But and you had done all the legwork on that. You'd lined everybody up, gotten everybody set and everything. But yeah, Teresa was luckily, because she didn't have quite as much on her shoulders to do it. She was able to step in easily and sort of take it over.
It was nice. It's nice having the person that won it last year, or if that person is not available, the person that won it the last year. Come up and present the award because number one, you're not seeing you're just not seeing this. It's easier for the MC, and you're not seeing the same person over and over again.
Right, exactly.
And the other person that comes up might have had a glass or two of wine and might be a little bit more loosey goosey than they normally would have been. So that's also entertaining.
It gives everything a little bit of a different flavor. So the whole thing doesn't have the same tone, and not that that's a bad thing per se, but it was nice. It was definitely a change of pace last year because
I enjoyed last year.
yes, you did, because you got to sit there and drink and not do anything.
Didn't feel nervous a bit.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And there was only 3 shows last year because of COVID, and so that was kind of a good little tester.
Right.
We'll give it the full rollout this year, and hopefully my leg will cooperate. Thank you, Fred, for coming. I think we're going to put a pin in it there. And
anything particular you want to talk about that we didn't talk about?
Now's the time.
Well, I'd just like to say that the Neuse Little Theater has grown since we came into it here in 1998. And when we first came in, we didn't have these seats. There was a noisy heater up here which didn't heat it very well.
Mm-hmm.
It had no air conditioning in the building, and we had a big, huge floor fan, about a 4-foot floor fan that we set there in the door, and it kept so much noise you couldn't run it during a performance.
Right.
And so we, by hook and crook and hard work and participation of quite a few people, we got air conditioning and heating in this building. And
I would like to point out that Fred was a huge contributor to that because he's a heating and air guy. So
Mm-hmm. Need a good HVAC guy.
well, I had come across a couple of good-sized air conditioners, just what it took to do this auditorium, and taking them out of where I was putting in other air conditioners, and 2 5-ton units. And I told Ken Mitchell, who was president then, I said, if the theater can buy the furnaces as air handlers and the coils, these outside units are totally free.
Wow.
So they came up with the idea and presented it. Of course, I was not a member of the board at that time, so I don't know how it ever happened, but Ken came up with the money and we got it in there with the help of Johnson Community College's air conditioning class. Doug Brown and his boys came around and worked some at night, and we got it in. So that has been a big addition to the well-being of our.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's when we went from 4 shows a season to 5 shows a season. And then we decided we didn't like doing the summer shows, but we also got the summer camp out of it. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And those 2 air conditioners ran. I mean, they ran till we bought these 2 new ones year before last to replace them with. They were still running when I took them out, but they had gotten so inefficient that the power bill had gotten so high that we had to have something more efficient than the old ones. So we bit the bullet and bought some new ones and air conditioned the box office. Now that was a biggie, because people used to literally freeze in there in the wintertime and sweat, bad sweat in the summertime.
Yeah.
So we got us a little air conditioner in there, and it uses hardly any electricity and makes the people a lot more pleasant when you go to the box office.
Very happy about that, because it used to either be an ice box or a sauna. It's like there was very little in between. So they're very happy that you gave them, particularly heat. They are very happy about the heat.
But that's about all I wanted to say about it. I've just enjoyed the Neuse Little Theater. Has been a big part of my life since I was 60 years old. I regret I waited till I was 60 to actually get into it.
You just had a birthday, correct? How old are you now,
right.
sir?
I turned 84 last Sunday, excuse me.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate the work you put into this place, the actual blood, sweat, and tears that we've talked about during this little interview. We thank you for most recently your work on the lights outside, on the lights on the pictures out there. It looks wonderful, and we thank you for literally helping to keep the lights on around this place. So we're indebted to you, Fred. So we appreciate it. We really do. We'll do our best to keep those lights on in future generations. That's for sure.
Thank you very much. I hope the relationship can go on for many more years.
That's the goal. That's always the goal. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. For Neuse Little Podcast, we're going to put a pin in it there, folks. And I would be remiss if we didn't mention that we do have auditions coming up for The Outsiders, and they are coming up on December 14th.
Nope.
No,
13th.
13th, excuse me. Monday, December 13th, and Wednesday, December 15th. There's no Tuesday auditions. So those are the 2 dates, the 13th and the 15th.
At 7 p.m.
7 p.m. And COVID vaccination stuff?
The director is requiring everyone to be vaccinated by the time rehearsal starts.
So that's probably in January.
That'll be January.
Gotcha. All right. Well, please come out and audition for that. There's several roles, especially for young adults and teenagers, especially. So
Yes, very much so.
please come out for that. All right, folks, we appreciate it. We hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and we'll have something something brief, because we want to take time off to spend time with our families, but we will have something for you on Christmas Eve, December 24th. It'll be brief, and it will be unique. So until that little stocking stuffer, we'll see you later. Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Fred Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice, that Cody Walker. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.